In this video, I'm going to show you how to apply custom layouts to the default SharePoint forms using the script from my blog. You will find the URL to my blog in the description for this video below if you're viewing it on YouTube. So here we are in SharePoint 2013 in Office 365, and here we have an issues tracking list called Issues. If you look at the new item form for this issues list, you see that it's your standard SharePoint new item form. You have everything's all in one column. You've got to scroll to see all the fields. It looks like SharePoint. There's nothing special about it. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to apply a custom layout to this form so that we can break it up into two columns so that we can make better use of our screen. You could even stylize it by doing a lot of CSS and stuff as well. I'm not much of a designer though, so I'm going to give you the foundation and let you creative types run with it and make it even better. So let's go into SharePoint Designer and we look at our site assets directory, and we have two files. We have the script from my blog and we have our custom layout. So let's first look at that custom layout. This is just a plain basic HTML table, right? There's nothing fancy about this. And every field from our SharePoint form has a span in this table. And this is what the script is going to use to know what it's supposed to do. So if we take a closer look at one of these spans, you see that they each have a class of Hillbilly Form. And that's so the script can find all these spans. They then have a custom attribute called data-display-name. And the value of this custom attribute is the display name of the SharePoint form field for which this span is a placeholder for. So this span is going to hold the input for the title field. This span is going to hold the drop down for the issue status, and so on. So you will create a span for every field from your form that you want to be in your custom layout, and then you want to make sure that this attribute has the display name of that form field. So you don't have to use a table. You could use divs, you could use CSS, you could make it very, very stylized, but for the purposes of keeping it simple and because I'm not a designer, we're just going to put everything in a table, okay? So let's take a quick look at the other file in our site assets library, which is the hillbillyform.js script from my blog. You don't necessarily need to understand what this script does because it's pretty basic. I'm basically going through every one of those spans that have that class of Hillbilly Form, and I'm finding that display name attribute. I then go through all of the fields in the default SharePoint form and look for that matching field. And when I find those matching fields, I move the contents of that SharePoint form field into my layout, thus moving those fields wherever I go. I'm also hiding that table on the screen too, that default form, so you won't see that default form on the page. Alright, so let's apply the script to our default new form in SharePoint. So back in SharePoint, let's go to this issues list default new form. So we click on list to get the ribbon, click on default new form, and let's add a couple of content editor web parts. Let's do add web part, media and content editor add, and let's add one more, media content editor add. So now let's link it to those files in our site assets library. Let's do edit web part and link it to our form, which was, what was the name of our form? It was new issue.html. So site assets, new issue.html, and let's apply that. And here we can see our custom layout. It's basically all you're going to see are those labels because the spans, of course, aren't visible. Now let's link this other content editor to our script that's supposed to make all the magic happen. So that is going to be also in site assets, and we call that hillbillyform.js, and let's apply that. So you can see immediately it's already reformatted our form for us, but let's go ahead and stop editing and let's look at it out of edit mode. So now when we click on new item, You can see it's using our custom layout for that form. We've got 2 columns now, right? We've got things, our labels are now bold, but everything still works. We still get our rich text like we had before, right? We still can use all these other fields. We can use the calendar just fine. The people picker works just fine as well. Also, if you try to save it without required fields, those error messages still work. So we can go ahead and save it. Here is the one we just created. So if we look at it in display mode, it still displays it in that ugly standard SharePoint display form. You can use this exact same script and exact same method to create a custom display form as well. So you can create custom new forms, edit forms, and display forms. Go ahead and have some fun with it. If you have any questions, let me know. And thanks again for stopping by.